Hello there, and welcome to this short video about how to draft an employment contract and some express terms that should be included. It will obviously depend on whether the contract of employment that you're drafting is for an executive, or perhaps a support staff, or perhaps a retail worker. But some of, or most of these terms should be considered in your contract. My name is Terry Gorry. My contact details, I'm a solicitor. My contact details are there on the screen. So let's get the show on the road. Basically, as a background, an employment contract in Irish employment law is made up of implied terms and express terms. The implied terms fall into four categories: those implied by statute, i.e. law, statute law; terms implied by custom and practice; terms implied by law; and terms implied by collective agreements in unionized employments. This video is going to just look at express terms. What are express terms, or what express terms should be included? Firstly, the parties to the agreement, the job description, the hours of work, the place of work, whether the contract is for exclusive service, in other words, whether the person can engage in other activity aside from your particular role, your particular job, whether they can be engaged perhaps in another job or in another business or something. That needs to be clarified. A probation term should be included. The term of the contract, whether it's a fixed term contract or a part-time, or a fixed term contract or a permanent contract. Clearly, the salary and pay should be included. Holidays and annual leave then should be provided for. Even though there are particular statutory requirements that you must give an employee, also depending on the job, the employee may negotiate a better holiday package or annual leave package. If there's a company and car involved, well then that should be a provision should be put in the contract for that. The sick pay situation in the company, whether there's a sick pay scheme and so on, should be provided for. Is there a pension? What's the retirement age? And what, and this is an important one, what is your disciplinary procedure? There should be a restrictive covenant then for when the employment relationship ends, in other words, a non-compete clause. Termination provisions should be included in the contract. You might need a search clause in the contract, depending on the, for example, if somebody's working in a factory or working in retail, you may wish to have a search clause, in other words, to have a reasonable search of the person to ensure that they're not removing your products or your goods from the factory or from the shop floor. You may need to include an express term in relation to patents and intellectual property of your company, and there may be share options. Obviously this would only apply to an executive type role, but it's something that should be considered. You should also make provision in your contract for bullying and harassment in the workplace. You should have a policy and procedure. And you need to consider whether your contract is going to be referring to a staff handbook, or whether you have a bullying and harassment procedure written into your contract. Internet and email usage then has become a problem for employers, with many employees making free access to the internet and to social media sites, for example, like Facebook and Twitter and so on, during work hours. This is something that needs to be provided for in the contract. And what is acceptable usage? Resignation, then you may need to put in a provision in relation to the resignation of the employee. What are the requirements? The proper law then of the contract. Is it going to be governed by Irish law or English law or American law, and so on? You may consider some other terms in your contract, but these certainly are ones you should consider as express terms. As I say, my name is Terry Gorry. I'm a solicitor in Enfield, County Meath. My contact details are there on the screen. You can find more free information about employment law on my websites, which you can see there at the bottom of the screen. Thanks for watching.